Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Rams Brothers, the pod. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined by the other host of this show, Nick. And Nick, we got the Cardinals coming into SoFi. A lot of confidence on Rams fans' side. I don't know how to feel about this game. I'm a little bit in between. Nick, how are you?
I'm good. I'm wearing the same shirt, our shirt that I wore when we recorded Monday. Yeah, repping Rams.
I'm rocking the old Rams gear, but what are you gonna do?
It was one of those. I took it off after work, threw it on my chair, and then it's Thursday, and I was like, oh, I can wear this again.
Yeah, you're ready to go.
So I wore it again today, all day, and it's been a great day. I'm excited. The Cardinals tweeted out that Jaws thing that everybody wants to be talking about on Twitter. I saw it about like 1 billion times. I like the Cardinals social media team. They usually do some funny stuff. I thought that was totally fair and funny. So I don't really get why people were, getting all upset about it. But, good day. Good Thursday. Thursday night football.
Good. An opportune time to potentially wear that T-shirt to BrewX. If you have a chance, right? If you want to go check out BrewX, BrewX is obviously our sponsor. The best brewery in Anaheim, IPAs, hard seltzers, you name it. They got it. Over 30 beers, 10 hard seltzers, curbside pickup 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Open every day, 11 a.m. to midnight. And Nick, that's a great shirt to wear in there. Rep the brand. Let everybody know that it's for sale on LAFBnetwork.com and the LAFB locker room. So go get your Rams Brothers gear if you want some.
Yeah, you really just got to give it up for LAFB because not only did they bring us Brewery X in our life, but they also gave us a great opportunity to make some cool merch and that you guys can buy, and it's really comfortable and it's great. And yeah, I hope you get out there, and I'll be giving some away later in the year. So
good. We'll be at the Lions game, so I'm going to try to get some merch for that game that maybe we can give out to you guys. All right, enough self promotion. We've done enough promotions with our sponsor. Let's get into this game. I think that there's a lot to talk about, right? It's, there's a lot around the narrative of Sean McVay being 8-0. Since he came in 2017, they've completely owned the Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury. But the Cardinals, right now, they're playing pretty well. Over the history of the Rams and Cardinals over the past 4 years, the point differential is plus 160. But the Cardinals currently, amongst the 5 undefeated teams, they're currently second in point differential with plus 38. Denver, by the way, is first, which was took me back a little bit. But by comparison, the Rams are at plus 33. It's going to be a hell of a matchup, no matter how way you slice it. I just think the Rams have had Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray's number over the past 2 seasons. So obviously, our favor leans with the Rams, and I think Vegas's does as well. Nick, I think you have the Rams right now -4. I'm sure that's going to be included in your picks. But just overall, are you ready to go in this game? Are you confident? I know that, it feels like whenever we're ready to put our foot on the gas over the past maybe, 2 years or so, there's been a team that's gotten in the way, the Jets, the Dolphins, the 49ers. Do you feel like this game could be similar to that, or do you think that game is still to come?
I'm going to say something that's going to sound really simple, but I think it goes a long way. The Vikings showed you how to beat the Cardinals. They should have beat the Cardinals if they would have made a 38-yard kick. And the Rams are a better defense than the Vikings defense. I don't really like the Vikings secondary. And I really enjoy what our offense has been putting on the field. So Sean McVay's record, I'm not terrified. And it's at home. If this game was in Arizona, maybe I'd be a little more scared, but I'm not. I feel very confident, and I think it's fair to be confident because our team looks pretty dang good.
Yeah, I think they do. It's one thing, right, if this game was in Arizona, but you look at just the sample size, the 3-game sample size Arizona has put out. If you just look at their defense, we'll get to their offense in a second, but if you just look at their defense in total, they're allowing 140 rushing yards per game. Only Kansas City, Seattle, and the Chargers have allowed more. Their run defense, really, if you just kind of look at if you go back and watch the first 3 games, they're bad by every single metric, every single statistic that you could possibly think of. But they've surrendered 5.64 yards on average before making a tackle in week 2 against the Vikings. And that's assuming that a tackle was made at all on that specific play. They missed 10 tackles against the Minnesota Vikings. which outpaced only the Texans for that week. They finished with an overall run grade per PFF 27.2. I mean, 6 tackles for loss or no gain within that game, but just the overall run grade. Nick, I think we talked about in previous weeks the fact that Arizona in the trenches, Seattle in the trenches, are they going to be able to be tough enough to beat a team like the Rams? The reason why we're skipping over the Jacksonville game, we'll get to the Jacksonville game too in a second, but that Minnesota game was strange. It was a tale of two halves. The fact that in the first half, they allowed 292 total yards to Kirk Cousins and the Vikings and 23 points. And in the second half, they only allowed 127 yards and 3 points. Should have been 6 points, Nick, as you alluded to. So they're capable of adjusting. It's not like Van Joseph is a bad defensive coordinator. Obviously, his time spent in Denver was valuable. But, Nick, there's a lot within this defense. And once we continue to cut it up, I think – that Rams -4, which actually I think went down to Rams -3.5, looks like it could cover.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, right now.
Because the line came out and it was -6, and that I didn't want to touch. But now if it's -3.5,
mine went all the way down to
I'll take that alternate spread, Rams -3 all day.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
I like that a lot.
That'll be in your picks.
Yeah, I know. I really am not I just think their secondary isn't that scary. They added some pass rushers, so they're going to try to blitz you a lot, but we don't have, a QB that can kind of be a little evasive to the blitz, show you a little, one Texas two-step that he may have added to his arsenal and, kind of avoid it. So, and you know what? And I know both of us have been super critical. I have been loving our offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to the offensive line too. I want to just kind of get back to what we've seen with the Cardinals so far, just schematically with this defense, just because it's a little alarming. You don't think a team in the NFC West that has to go against a team that uses a lot of jet motion is going to be susceptible to these kind of things. And considering that in that Vikings game, Mike Zimmer is like 100 years old. You wouldn't think he's one of the coaches that's able to be innovative enough and utilize a ton of jet sweeps and jet motions. But it was so damn easy to run on them in that game. Nick, I want to move on, but I almost can't. All you had to do in that game was call a receiver in some form of motion. They would draw a nickel defender over, and then the linebackers would just flow in whichever direction that the offensive line was moving in. So in terms of misdirection, in terms of drawing attention to a ball carrier that may not have the ball, and you can kind of dump it off to a receiver or a running back in the screen game. There's so many different things that they're going to be able to do against this team. I just watched those linebackers flow in the direction of the ball carrier. And then all that whoever it is, Sony Michel or Jake Funk, all they have to do is make one cut and they're into the second level. So there was actually a drive in that Jacksonville game. I told you we were going to get the Jacksonville game last weekend.
That was a weird game.
Dude, and this is the weirdest series within this game. James Robinson ran for 66 yards and a touchdown on a single drive without Jacksonville even attempting a single pass. Like, this defense cannot fill gaps whatsoever when it comes to defending the run. James Robinson's a good player, don't get me wrong. But the fact that Jacksonville didn't have to throw the ball to score a touchdown, does it play to the Rams' strengths right now? I guess that's one question I could shoot over to you. Sony Michel's looked pretty good in 2 weeks. And I still think the Rams can get creative with how they run the ball.
Some people may say my brain is left in 2018 because I talk about it so much, but I don't even care. Sonny Michel reminds me of a little CJ Anderson, tiny little golem boulder going out there, like shoulders up and just like pounding through offenses or defenses. Through his own offensive line. And it's I think he may have a breakout game. I'm starting him this week in fantasy.
Yeah, he's a player that I would start this week.
Yeah, I think he has great potential. I cannot believe Funk got a rep last week, to be honest with you.
Well, it was weird. It was in the first series, too.
Yeah.
And it was a decent carry for 6 yards. I don't expect Jake Funk to make a huge impact in this game. But, you could use him as a decoy. Plus, you have Sony Michel, who I think is going to get that running back one volume. I mean, he'll probably get 15, 17 carries. He'll be a pass catcher if he has to. We saw him last week. He was great in pass protection. He had that highlight block on a blitz that he picked up. It actually looked like a play where he was splitting out to catch a pass and he chipped in and blocked on the last second. So just a veteran making a play there. He's a really fun player to watch just because he's so technically sound. I think he's going to have a really big week. I'm confident in Kevin Carberry and Sean McVay to just kind of go with the scheme that allows for our offensive lines, who are highly athletic, our offensive linemen, to just kind of be able to get into the second level. I watched a lot of clips of Austin Corbett and Brian Allen in this past week, making blocks in the open field and finishing plays. Two players that haven't gotten a lot of attention, but are playing like top 5 players in that position. If they can get into the second level and allow our ball carriers to make that first cut, that second cut, and, just a lot of yards per carry, right? If you can kind of compile an offense around that and then be able to just exploit the defense with deep shots, I think that's something that we're going to be able to see on Sunday. Their pass defense, Nick.
Wait, before we start talking about their defense, I think it should be said both of us are counting Henderson out, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't expect him to play this week.
I don't want him to play. I feel like he should take as much time, especially if you're 3-0 right now. I think you can definitely allow your running back to, like, your workhorse to take a little extra time if he needs it. Like, playoff game this week, I want him out there, and I think he would want to be out there.
Sure.
But I would like to see him on the sidelines this week. I'm confident in Sonny's ability. That's all.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Well, I just want to go back to the Vikings for a second. There was something with the Vikings that just came to my mind that I kind of wanted to talk about. I
really like the Vikings. I don't know if we're going to go on a Vikings kick, but I think they're a really strong team.
No, we're not planning to. They're decent.
Next picks. Wait for next picks.
One of the things that I wanted to touch on too, real quick, was the fact that a player like Henderson can be out, and you have a backup like Madison or Sony Michel. Minnesota played their best game of the year last week. They look like the team that they're supposed to be, and that's without Dalvin Cook. So sometimes the effect of, your starting running back being out is not going to hamper you. You feel like, oh, well, we wish we had Henderson in this game or Akers. This would actually be the game that Akers, you could just feed him and give him the ball 35 times if you want to. But at the same time, you don't necessarily need that to beat this team. They've had a lot of games, Nick, this year, 3 games that have been a little bit shaky, and each of which, you can kind of look in and kind of pick and pull apart. Even in that Jacksonville game, Nick, they allowed, a 63-yard passing play on a halfback pass and then a 71-yard passing play. So, they're susceptible to those things. The reason why I wanted to talk about the Cardinals pass defense for a second, 7 plays, and we talked about, not allowing big plays. 7 plays, 15-plus yards allowed throughout 3 weeks. It's the best in the NFL right now. In fact, it's the best 3-game opening to a season since the 2017 Bengals. So I don't know. That statistic seems a little bit 15-plus yards, 7 plays, 50. But then you're also taking into account the 63-yarder and the 71-yarder, which is something that the Rams have not done so far. So it's a little bit of a flawed stat. But at the same time, you said you're not completely sold on their defensive backs. I'm not either. I think Budda Baker obviously is a guy you have to keep your eye on. Jalen Thompson's been playing really well as well. Through 3 weeks, though, Byron Murphy, Robert Alford, Marco Wilson, Patrick Peterson, all specific statistics on just how many passes they've given up on which number of specific targets. So Byron Murphy's at 52.9%, 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. He's outplaying everybody right now. And then Robert Alford, 10 catches on 17 targets, 58%, 1 pass breakup. Marco Wilson, he's a little bit weaker of a player, 9 catches on 14 targets, 64%, be able to go at him. And then Patrick Peterson, 8 catches on 10 targets, 80%, 0 pass breakup, 0 interceptions. You go right at him as well. He's a guy he tortured the Rams for a long time, but he's very much out of his prime right now. And you could tell he's susceptible to big plays. Probably one of the reasons why they brought in Quinton Dunbar, which indicates, one, that unfortunately, fortunate for Quinton Dunbar and the Cardinals that he's healthy, and 2, that Arizona feels like they needed some defensive back help. So when you feel like, you look at Tampa Bay, a team that needed defensive back help, they went out and got Richard Sherman. Cardinals go out and get Quinton Dunbar. So that indicates, Nick, to you, to me, to everybody else, that they feel like they need help there. So
yeah, I mean, I don't really like what I'm seeing from most of those guys. I I think if you put those stats up against where the Rams defense is, if you're a Cardinals fan, you're going to have a bad time. Just in general, and like I like some of like Vikings are obviously going to have big chunk plays. You got Justin Jefferson out there, one of the top 3 receivers, I think. Jacksonville, you're letting up Trevor Lawrence out there. It's just that game is just such a I don't know if you throw it out if you're doing Cardinals, if you're a Cardinal coach, or if you're really trying to analyze it, because it really made no sense. And also I feel like they've kind of just been getting the lucky end of the stick, by having that third place in the division record from last year.
Yeah.
So.
Well, wait till you look at the rest of their schedule, because it's a hell of a gauntlet. You got
really?
the Rams, you got the Niners twice, you got the Panthers mixed in there. Seattle.
Well, yeah, all of us are playing that division.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, you got Carolina sprinkled in, and the Niners twice in 3 weeks. It's going to get tough for the Cardinals, and it's going to get tough quick. I think players on the defensive side of the ball, before we transition over to offense, linebackers, Isaiah Simmons, he's a player you just have to keep your eye on, just because he moves all over the place. I'm sure Raheem Mostert's aware of that. I'm sure the Rams offensive line will be aware that if he's coming around the edge, if he's in place of J.J. Watt or Chandler Jones, or if he's playing linebacker or he's in coverage, you just kind of have to know where he is at all times. Jordan Hicks is another guy who's been in the league for such a long period of time. And I think he's on the back half of his career. He's in that middle linebacker phase where he can make a tackle if he has to, but he's not going to chase anybody down. And then nobody on the inside, Nick, scares me one bit, which is one of the reasons why I feel like our offensive line is going to continue to play well, and we're going to be able to run the ball in this game. Lee K. Fotu, Rashad Lawrence, Zach Allen, Corey Peters, they're all average players. And then it's J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones that you indicated are around the edges. Our tackles are going to have to worry about them. They're both extremely good players. But I feel like their whole defense is kind of predicated around Chandler Jones rushing the passer and creating pressure off of that. So I just don't have confidence in the defense yet. I just don't think they're strong enough yet.
If Kirk Cousins is out there, surgically tearing apart these guys, I think with enough time, I think Stafford will be able to do equally good, if not better.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those games where you can go back to the basics a little bit, where you don't necessarily, like Tampa Bay, you could beat them by throwing the ball 40, 50 times. You don't necessarily...
You kind of have to. You can't really run on Tampa. You can run on Arizona.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to do that in this game. But, I mean, when you look at this, we'll talk about time of possession and just kind of how to weigh this game out. The Cardinals' offense, they're a hell of a lot better offensively than what we saw last year and the year before that and the year before that. Kyler's completed 80% of his passes over the last 2 weeks, and Kingsbury's come a long way just in the way that he's developed this offense. It looked a little bit similar to what Baltimore's doing with Lamar Jackson. I've seen them it's kind of like a variety of the pistol. It's like a variation of the pistol offense, or you can call it the power or strong power or whatever Baldy alluded to earlier today. You call it a number of things. You give it a Cliff Kingsbury nickname. But they ran a lot of different things just out of that, and they will continue to do that. So they ran jet motion. Their backs and receivers can all block. And Kyler, Nick, is like the definition of backyard football.
Right. Wait, hold on. Just for a second, let me just throw this in there.
Well, that's where I was going to pause.
Oh, well, perfect. Yeah. And unfortunately for Kyler, one of the things that the Rams have done well since the Fisher era, since Donald's tenure, is been able to always go toe-to-toe with Seattle and Russell Wilson. It's one of it. It's been a division rival long before Kyler was on Arizona. So it was something that this defense, Aaron Donald in particular, has been going up against since they started, and always focused on heavy. And I think it's one of the reasons why Arizona struggles against the Rams, because that's the kind of quarterback or one of the types that they kind of have a good lock on. Very, very, very light amounts of Hopkins highlights and DK Metcalf highlights against the Rams.
Against Jalen Ramsey specifically.
Yeah, and I think that just has a lot to do with it.
You know what? It's interesting. I totally agree with you. Arizona's offense, they're great against subpar teams, against average teams. Against a team like the Rams, where you can shut down some of their top weapons, they look like a shell of themselves. And then they begin to show that throughout the whole rest of the season. And then they become a non-playoff team. And then Kyler falls out of the MVP conversation. So it's crazy. Excuse me. But you have to think, too, within 2 weeks or within 5 days, right, the Rams get to prepare for Kyler Murray and then Russell Wilson, somebody they prepared for the last 8 years. So you have to think that, like, I almost felt crazy tweeting this, but it's kind of beneficial for the Rams to have to prepare for Kyler Murray, who's a little bit more of a task. And I think the Arizona offense, believe it or not, is a little bit tougher. They have more dimensions to them. So there's more preparation there. And then you kind of get to scale it back against Russell Wilson, against an offense that you kind of already know, with Shane Waldron going over there from the Rams. So I think it's kind of beneficial for them right now. But it's just really interesting to kind of just see what Kyler's going to turn this into. Like, he could beat you. He's going to try to beat you with the deep ball anytime. He's going to try to beat you with his legs. But I don't know. What's your feeling about Kyler Murray so far this year?
Obviously in the MVP conversation, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. Just in general, I say this all the time. I respect the hell out of the kid. He's such an athlete. Obviously just so great at throwing the football, and he's great on his legs. And as a viewer, I'm just going to say this. I'm not trying to be mean. It is comedic to see this little guy out there compared to all these big guys just, running the offense. It's fun. It's always fun.
Yep.
His kryptonite, more than any other team, feels like the Rams. He's just, hasn't beaten them since he's been there. Aaron Donald usually gets a couple sacks. So as much as I love the kid, I would not start him this week in fantasy if you had him. And his MVP odds are probably going to go, if he wins this game, if they do pull out and win it, his MVP odds are he's going to be less or higher of an MVP option, I think.
Well, I think you know why all this is happening right now for him. I think they finally improved the offensive line a little bit. If they can stay healthy, there are more weapons on the offense. Christian Kirk's playing really well out of the slot. Rondale Moore is what was, after week 2, was leading the league in yards after the catch. AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins, like, they have a number of weapons. They have 2 really good running backs as well, and Chase Edmonds and James Conner. Chase Edmonds is a great pass catcher right now. He's leading the team in targets and receptions. So, there's more dimensions to this offense. I just think they're a better team right now than we've seen in the past. So while I feel like our offense is going to have an advantage, this is going to be another game where this team just gives up a ton of passing yards, I feel like. Right? Even if it is in garbage time and they have a 2-touchdown lead in the second half, they gave up 423 yards against Tom Brady, and Kyler's thrown for an average of 335 total yards over his first 3 games. So you could almost give up, right? It's weird, right? Because we've been, so predicated on this bend don't break defense, that we've been so tough on Raheem Morris. But in today's NFL, you could actually give up a ton of yards. And as long as you're limiting possessions and you're limiting that time of possession, and you're making big stops on 3rd and 4th down, and you're keeping them out of the end zone, and you're forcing field goals, you're going to be fine. And it's exactly what the Rams have been doing. And it's taken them from, an average defense, over the past 3-4 years to one of the top defenses in the league over the past 2. So there's a lot to kind of like about what the Rams are able to do and how they can cap Kyler. I think with the Cardinals offensive line, it's really kind of a shame. Their pass blocking unit, throughout the first 3 games, they have a rating of 76.3. I think it's extremely important, though, to note in the third quarter of that Jacksonville game, Arizona was down 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. So Kelvin Beachum, he's already out. And then Justin Pugh and Justin Murray also came out with back injuries, while the Cardinals trailed Jacksonville 13-7 in the third quarter. So, there's a lot of context within that Jacksonville game that we could just continue to talk about. But, the backup guards came in. Max Garcia, Sean Harlow came in and didn't allow a single sack on 22 pass attempts. And the offense gained a total of 252 yards, while all 3 of those starters were still out against Jacksonville again. But does Jacksonville know how to exploit players that are, banged up or younger or don't know the system as well, the same way that the Rams can, especially interior offensive linemen, right? If you have two guards with back injuries, I think that's a really, really good chance for players like Sebastian Joseph Day and Greg Gaines and Aaron Donald and Nashawn Robinson to just have a really, really nice afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting. I would love to see what the sack over under is, because it would be it would be fun to bet on that over if it's not like 3. Just if you do your research like you just did, not all the main guys are going to be there, so just a little bit of. I hate that my mind goes right to gambling, but that's what it does now. That is just where we are. Well, I'm just ready for Nick's picks, man. Nick's picks have been just so hot.
Tidbits on gambling. Yeah, we'll get to Nick's picks in a minute. Bump the brakes. Nick's picks have been so hot.
They have been. They've been red hot flames.
So your camera, your picture is actually off to the right of me, and I have like a loose script in front of me, so I can't always see your mannerism. Sometimes when they're crazy, I could they catch the side of my eye. So it's just really funny. But yeah, no, it's when you do the research, right? And this kind of plays into your gambling addiction. When guys are just battered up on the inside, and again, we could talk about just winning the line of scrimmage over and over again. But I think on both sides of the ball, the Rams actually have a really strong advantage. So I mean,
I'm shocked the line is as small as it is, because 3.5 is. I feel like Vegas doesn't trust the Rams yet, especially because they were underdogs last week, and I feel like they got to start putting some respect on their name. It's the Seattle game that I would stay away from. That's the stay away game.
Well, I think the Rams are only favored by 1 point in that game
as of now.
Yeah, as of now. So I don't know. That could be a pick 'em. Who knows? I would take the Rams in that game. But it's a shame for the Cardinals that their starting 5 their offensive line is only allowed 3 sacks through 102 Kyler Murray passing attempts. They have the highest grade in protecting the passer per PFF at 76.2 right now. The Rams are right behind them at 75.4. But you have to, when you're the Rams, you have to be able to marry up the pass rush with the coverage downfield. Players like AJ Green and Christian Kirk are a friggin' problem. And Christian Kirk right now is getting behind pretty much any defender in the NFL out of the slot. Rondale Moore talked about how he was leading the league in yards after the catch. And then you got D-Hop. Do you know the status of D-Hop? Is he going to be in this game? I'm sure he's questionable.
No, he's healthy again. So he was questionable. He was questionable this morning. I got a fantasy alert. He's on both my teams, and then now he's healthy again. So he'll probably be playing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with Chase Edmonds in this. Oh, first of all, my fantasy team sucks. So Chase Edmonds, though, leading the team in targets and receptions. When you look at that backfield, you see a little bit of Chase Edmonds, especially in that pistol formation. They even have their tight end, Max Williams, go down there and block a little bit in the backfield. So they have 6 primary pass catchers. It's the two running backs, their 4 receivers, and then it's Max Williams. So you're really only getting work out of one tight end, which essentially means that they're probably running a lot of 11 personnel, which is different from what they've ran in the past. They also run a lot of spreads where they just have 4 receivers on the field just because of the personnel that they do have and the talent that they have at the position. And a stat that will make you puke right now, you thought Cooper Kupp was the best slot receiver in the league. Christian Kirk, 239 slot receiving yards. He leads the NFL. Cooper Kupp trails with 220. So they're coming at us. I mean, it's a situation where it's a team that wants to beat us probably just as bad as we want to beat the 49ers.
I feel like if you're a Cardinals fan, if you want to convince yourself that the Cardinals can win this game, you got to think the Rams, quote unquote, had their Super Bowl last week, beating that Super Bowl team. So you think maybe this week they're not going to be as jazzed. But the fact that it's in SoFi again, and the fact that everyone's saying it's like super duper loud, like that is huge. That advantage. That 13th man, we haven't had that really. So
Tom Brady and Rich Eisen. Rich Eisen came out and was like, "It is loud. I mean, it might offend Seattle fans, but it might be louder than Seattle." Which is awesome.
I cannot wait to add to that this week. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, you're going to be screaming. Well, we're going to see all your live footage. You will be linked to the Rams Brothers Instagram account. So Instagram is going to be ran by you on Sunday, which is going to be
Nikki takeover.
Fantastic.
I'm gonna be in the pink lot if anybody wants to stop and say hi. Dean won't be there, so probably won't be as long of a line, but
oh man,
there won't be any line.
So here's what I got here for you. I would say the line for you would be no longer than 24, which is the amount of pressures the Rams had on Brady last week. So 25, 26 pressures on Kyler Murray this week. I would go probably over that number, which is
they brought the blitz a lot last week, almost like it felt like too much, but it worked. So,
and you got to think if they're in garbage time, similar to almost how Tampa Bay was last week, that you're going to get a lot of pressures and a lot of sacks and a lot of quarterback hits late in that game. It's why I want to see what Ramsey does in this game, and a lot of it's going to be dependent on Hopkins' status and usage in this game. If he said he's healthy, he's healthy. But I think that's going to be his most difficult matchup of the season, just because he moves around the field so much. Right? He's
incorrect.
Hold on. I'm not saying Hopkins is his most difficult matchup. I'm saying because he moves around so often, because he's in the star, because he's in blitz packages. There's not really an opportunity to catch your breath with this entire offense. Like, it's going to force big games out of players like Jordan Fuller and Taylor Rapp, David Long Jr., Darius Williams, guys that aren't Jalen Ramsey, because there's so much of the load to carry outside of Jalen Ramsey's responsibilities.
I was going to say the only team and player that really got Ramsey's GOAT last year was Devontae Adams. So
that's true.
Ramsey kind of was able to lock down Hopkins, but again, and Metcalf. But again, he's a completely different role.
It's such a tough stat though, because at the same time, you saw Adams come in motion multiple times in that divisional game. And, when you come in motion and your Rams are playing in a zone, another player could be assigned to that player once they come in motion. Like, sometimes the number gets attributed to Ramsey and it doesn't necessarily reflect the actual play.
Right.
So it's tricky. I'm so defensive of my players. I'll come out with anything. But that's
that was just like the one game where it was like, oh God, everything's kind of falling apart.
Well, it was like people were tweeting like, oh, Devontae Adams owned Jalen Ramsey, and it's like, no, he didn't. There was just a miscommunication, and David Long Jr. was probably supposed to pick him up, and he didn't. So, I don't know. The defensive backs are going to be, I think, what we have to watch, right? Just because there's so much skill within the wide receiver position. Ramsey, Rapp, Williams, and Fuller were all on the field for every defensive snap last week. David Long Jr. was in for the majority of the snaps, would suggest that they're playing a lot of nickel. So 72% we saw David Long. Then Robert Rochelle got 14 snaps. Nick Scott got 13 snaps. So it's mostly nickel, and you could expect more of the same on Sunday. They don't mind giving up passing yards, as I mentioned, but they just want those third down stops, those fourth down stops. When it matters most, they can get the ball back and take control of the game. So that's what I got for a preview. I think it's a hell of a matchup in favor of the Rams. I think the 6-point spread, I think, was correct. I think you take them at 6. You take them at 6.5.
Oh, no. Oh, I thought you were saying I was right, and that's what it actually is.
No, you're not. I'm saying that's what I felt like it still should be. But it seems like a lot of money's poured in on the Cardinals, for the reasons that we've mentioned above. They've made some really nice additions. Just don't think. See, this is what happens with these 3-0 teams early on in the season. They are flashy and they're showing their outer beauty, but then when you get to the inside, they're just ugly as hell.
Right. I feel like this is every year with the Cardinals too. It seems like they always start off super hot and then they lose some steam. And also, what was that comparison? You this is the team with the most passing yards since the 2018 Bengals or something like that in 3 games?
2017 Bengals.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good indication of okay, let's pump our brakes. You know what I mean?
That's that. Cardinals pass defense has allowed only 7 pass plays of 15 plus yards allowed through 3 weeks, best in the NFL. It's the best 3-game opening to a season since 2017 Bengals.
Yeah.
So again, 3-game sample size. They have some talent back there. They have some talent with their defensive backs, but again, they needed help. They brought in Quinton Dunbar. And there's going to be some opportunity to exploit Patrick Peterson. It's a good revenge game against Cooper Kupp. You could see another big catch over Patrick Peterson. It's going to be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I got the Rams, so that's not my lock of the week because I don't have that yet. So go ahead.
Are we going into Nick's picks? Is it Nick's picks time?
Let's do it.
Transition over to Nick's picks.
I feel like I could breathe a little bit.
For the people who are listening via podcast and not watching the video, I just turned my hat backwards, so we are getting into Nick's picks.
And I just lit a cigar. So
no, he didn't, liar. So welcome everybody to the best part of the show. Last week we went 4-1. How about that? As close to a perfect week as you can get. Browns Bills Moneyline parlay. That was an armchair parlay. I don't even know how that happens. Those two words shouldn't even be together. Rams Moneyline. That was an incredible win. We won with our hearts and our wallets. Dallas -3. Pretty relaxing the entire game. I'm not going to lie. And Packers Moneyline, which wasn't relaxing, but we had some glory with a game-winning field goal. So you just love to see it. And then we had under 57.5 for the Rams game. The final score total was 58. And halfway through at halftime, Dean goes out and tweets, Nick was all over the under. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, kiss of death. This one's losing. And of course, we lose by half a point, which is literally the close. Like, you couldn't be closer to a perfect week. You really couldn't.
You know what? For whatever reason, you and everybody else on Twitter believes in jinx. So I tweet something. Oh, you jinxed it. You jinxed it.
Did people respond and say that?
Yeah, there's no jinx. Fucking jinx.
But anyway, before we get started, I would like Dean to give out his lock. And guys, let it be known, Dean's locks are not locks. He is 2-1. So
not that bad. I want to say one thing about your 4-1 record this past week before we jump into my lock. 4-1 was, I believe, the record Jeff Fisher had with Case Keenum. What was it, like 2015 or 14? I think they went on to lose like the next 6 weeks or 7 weeks. They ended the season probably 7-9 or 6-8-1 or something terrible.
Well, I'm 3-0 right now if you want to go by winning weeks.
Well, I'm just saying, regardless, pump the brakes. I might see a little Arizona Cardinals in you. So, let's see how it rolls. My lock of the week is obviously the Detroit Lions.
Oh, we have a similar pick. Okay.
Lions over the Bears. I'm going Lions money line.
There we go. So let's just go into Nick's picks now.
That's a bet with my heart.
Because this is our first Jared Goff pick of the week, an official Nick pick. We're also going with Lions money line over the Bears at home. The line is Lions +2.5, and it's in Chicago. It was Lions +3.5, but it has moved. So what does that tell you? Vegas believes Lions are the better team.
Way better team.
Because if this game was in Detroit, they would obviously be favored. And I would have to agree. Barring a record-breaking kick, the Lions would be coming off a feisty win against the Ravens. Some say a Super Bowl caliber team. And you got to believe that the entire organization is fed up with these heartbreaking losses. Campbell's out here trying to bite as many kneecaps as possible. Goff hasn't been looking bad. He hasn't been looking great. He's been looking like Goff. But I think he's developing a better relationship with his core, and I truly believe they're going to go into Chicago and take this W. Handsomely, too. I think it might be the game that Nagy gets fired. I've said it since week 1. Nagy is the first head coach fired this year. So that's a little prop bet. I literally said it in episode 1. But I'm taking Goff over Dalton, Foles, or Fields, no matter who they're throwing out there. I got Lions 27-7 victory over the Bears.
Wow, that's a big win. That's a lock.
I think I just think they're the better team, and I think they're going to be so mad after losing a game like that. And you're getting a mad Jared Goff, who's usually pretty good when he's pissed. So he's usually not. He usually shows no emotion. So when he's
is that the early game?
It's 1:00. Yeah.
Oh yeah, good. All right, cool.
That'll be the game that you watch before. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. And then moving on, we got
Go ahead.
What?
No, I was going to say I got to get the wife's permission on the bet, but she'll ride with Goff.
I think so. Yeah. And then we got Panthers at Cowboys. Wishing this was the Thursday night game because it's just two really good teams, even though we don't need any more excuses to have the Cowboys in prime time. But either way, it's fun to see how things have shaken up this year. No one had the Panthers looking this good, with the lone exception of Sam Darnold's mom. Their run defense is incredible, and their offense has multiple ways they can beat you. Darnold last week threw over 300 yards and had 2 rushing touchdowns. That's about as hunky as it gets. But when Christian McCaffrey went down for the Panthers, you saw the offense struggle against a weird Texans team. So that's a little concerning. Cowboys are going to exploit the secondary of the Panthers, while the Panthers are going to do the same for the Cowboys. And I really like what the Cowboys are doing, but I also want to pump the brakes on them in general. And you know what? Straight up, it's hard for me to pick a winner. So you know what? I'm just not going to do it. I'm just taking the over because I think it's just the best bet on the table.
That's smart.
Over 51 in the Panthers-Cowboys game. I'm just here for a good time, man.
Yeah, no, that game scares the hell out of me. I have no idea what the hell is going to happen in that game. I think the true test of like a team that you think is on the cusp of being good is you put them up against a bad team and you kind of see what happens. I think the Panthers showed some vulnerabilities. Obviously, McCaffrey's not fully healthy coming off of the hamstring. Chuba Hubbard's a pretty good replacement, but
good pickup in fantasy if you haven't got him yet. I'm sure somebody in every league swiped him.
Carolina's a well-coached team. You said that game's in Dallas?
Yep.
So that could sway in the direction. Dallas looks like they have a really tough roster too.
I really like Dallas.
If it comes down to coaching, I'll swing in the direction of Carolina all day. So I guess if I had to put my money on it, I'd go Carolina.
It's like gun to my head, I would pick the Cowboys probably because they're at home. But I'm not. Everybody wants an opinion on that game. Everybody's like Panthers, Cowboys. Who you got? I guess because it's juicy and it's like 2 pretty solid teams.
It's very juicy.
So whenever somebody texts me, I just say over.
Yeah, smart.
And then we got another NFC North underdog. I shouldn't, but I will. Vikings over the Browns, because if you've been watching the Vikings, you should know they should be 3-0. I'm not trying to be a Viking stan over here, but they got really unlucky call week 1 OT on a fumble that wasn't a fumble. And then they miss a 38-yard field goal to win the game against the Cardinals, which only happens to the Vikings. Thankfully, they beat the crap out of Seattle for us, which was huge. And now they're ready to take home another dub against the Browns in Minnesota. While I do like what the Browns are doing, I don't think they're a true contender like people think they are. They're a bit too reliant on big runs and time of possession. But one thing about Captain Kirk is he's a clock master. Dude is meticulous with his drives and so surgical that he can just take as long or as short as he wants. I've seen him drive down the field, in like less than a minute, and I've seen him do it in like 9 minutes on purpose. In Minnesota, we're running with the home dogs. It's going to give me a Vikings W in crunch time, 25-21.
Okay. Yeah, I like that a lot. Kirk Cousins has been playing really, really well.
I love Cousins, man. I think he's a really good, serviceable quarterback that Vikings team may not love. He's a bit of like a weird anti-vaxxer, I think, but he's
whatever.
Yeah.
I forget where I was watching it. I feel like I was asleep when I heard it, but apparently playing in that Minnesota stadium where they do the Viking ooh and the skull clap. Yeah, it's tough to play in there apparently. So Cleveland's a team that is on the cusp, and I think Vikings are desperate for a win, and it's in the division. It's not in the division, is it? In the division? No, no. But yeah, no, just that NFC North is super competitive. So I want to see what Minnesota can get out of that. I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah, I think I just really like Minnesota, and to be a home dog too. And it's I thought it was something else. It's plus 110, so it's not like a huge home dog. But I like it a lot, and I'm taking it. I'm taking two NFC North underdogs in my picks. Cool. So moving on, we got some good news. The Patriots suck. We got some bad news. Tom Brady's still the GOAT. This is a little Bill Simmons actually gave me this idea. He's been advertising it all week on his podcast, and I've been listening to it, and I love Bill Simmons, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take it because he's like, I'm not going to take it, but you should. So Tom Brady throwing 2 touchdowns is my pick. I just think it would be very serendipitous of him to beat that record in his previous home stadium. The whole stadium's going to stand up and cheer. And
oh, wait, so he needs 2 touchdowns to break the record?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it?
So I think Tom Brady throwing 2 touchdown passes at -110, or I think it's like 2.5. So he has to throw 3. That's my call. He's been averaging like 4 a game. He has the most touchdown passes this year. That's what. Yeah,
I think that's a good pick. Really good pick. I actually agree with the picks have been good. I agree with them. Maybe you're not the Cardinals. Maybe you're the Rams.
Yeah, and then we got a quick pick. I really want to do it just because I really want to say it, so I'm going to do it. The Raiders.
Oh, jeez. It wasn't on the script. I actually started scrolling down. If you saw me before you started talking, I started to panic. And then my ears blew out. So really just altogether great way to end the episode.
I want to see the Raiders win on Monday night and go 4-0. Like what an NFL we be living in. Like the Bengals are 3-1, the Ravens would be 4-0. I don't think it's going to happen. But I would love to see it, and we always make the quick picks fun. The research is never really done with them, so we like to just have a little fun with it. We got some extra money because we've been winning so much. So
I'm ready for the Raiders to go into overtime and lose.
The Raiders.
Yeah, I'm ready for them to lose. Chris.
So let's just run it back real fast. We got Tom Brady throwing 2.5 touchdown passes, breaking the record. Everybody in Boston has a little cream with their coffee the next morning. Then we got the Vikings over their over the Browns. We got the over in the Panthers Cowboys game, 51. And then we got Jared Goff's Lions beating a sad Chicago Bears team in Ford Stadium. I think it's Ford. No, it's not.
Ford Field.
No, I think Ford is the Lions Stadium.
Is the Bears?
I don't know. Who cares?
I don't know. Well,
you care.
Ford's Detroit.
Yeah,
no, Ford Chicago. No, yeah, it's Soldier Field is Chicago and Ford is Detroit. You had a perfect opportunity to use a spice melange Tom Brady joke, and you used cream and coffee.
Yeah, I was going with a little, dirtier joke, but that's all right. Yeah, Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Rams Brothers, the pod.
Yeah, Nick will be working on his comedic timing in the meantime before the next episode. I'm just kidding. I think I need to work on it. But our recap episode, it'll be a recap of the Cardinals, and then we'll just preview the Seahawks in the same episode. So 2 for
really?
1. Yeah.
So just one epi next week?
No. Well, we'll do the one epi on Monday. And then we'll
do the other one Thursday.
We'll go Friday, or we'll go Thursday night. We'll go post-game Thursday night, or we'll go Friday.
Oh, right. It's a Thursday game.
We're not good post-game Thursday night because we both like to drink, and we don't know what the hell is going to be said. And
it's also going to be my birthday, so hopefully the Rams can get a birthday victory.
Yeah, and we'll record the podcast the next day hungover like we always do.
Maybe like Friday morning we'll do one.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll be in.
All right, brother. Audience, fans. Thank you for listening. This episode got ahead of us. I'm shocked it's as long as it is, but I had a really good time. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie Day or Mickey Mouse, whatever the hell that impression was. Thanks,
Charlie Day. It was Charlie Day.
Host Nick, you're the best. Appreciate you. And thanks for listening. We'll be back.
Cue that beautiful King of the Croc King K. Rool music. It's already been playing.